Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about rear-ending crashes and being tailgated. It seems to be a huge issue with new drivers and driving and distracted driving. So we're going to talk about that. Counterintuitive, keep space in front to keep yourself safe, and we'll give you tips and strategies to be a safer, smarter driver. If you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from, what class of license you're going for, and how we can help you out. We will definitely help you out. Quite a number of people here already. Z is here from Langley, British Columbia. Marion is here from Port Moody. I got it right. Corey is here. Bricks for Wheels. Corey is the moderator. Does an pre-show, Marion. I was walking through the dog park. Those are actually all images and scenery from the dog park we have here in Vernon. Very lucky up in the BX area. And so I thought, well, I'll just do a little pre-show and then people will know that the live stream is going to go forward, and did that. Put some music under it, and it's really awesome. Sean is tuning in from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Hello, my friend. And Elevator Fan is here from Indiana. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. And we're talking about tailgating. We're talking about rear end crashes. And this is an important topic because the number one crash in North America is rear end crashes, which means two things. Their following distance is too close, and as well, they are failing to understand speed differentials between their vehicle and other vehicles on the roadway. In other words, they misjudge when other traffic is slowing down, and that, in combination with the fact that they're too close, causes them to get rear-ended. Jackson is tuning in here. Hello, my friend. Tailgating on the interstate today, yes, and people do it all the time, and it is a point of contention for smart drivers that other drivers are tailgating them on the roadway. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you strategies, tips, and information about how to avoid being tailgated, how to avoid tailgating other vehicles, and how to avoid being in a rear-end crash. And this ties in with the defensive driving that I've been teaching for the last couple of weeks with road rage and distracted driving. Space management, it is the most important component of the smarter defensive driving model. And if you can keep space in front of your vehicle, that 2 to 3 second following distance, and stop back 1 vehicle length from stop traffic in front, all this is going to reduce you being distracted. And if you do get distracted, it's going to provide minimum safe distance, so there's less of a chance that you get into a crash with the vehicle in front of you. It's going to reduce your chances of being involved in a road rage incident, and it's going to reduce your chances of being tailgated by other drivers on the roadways. And yes, Marion just epitomized the sentiment of every driver, other drivers that tailgate you. And it was actually interesting, because a couple of weeks ago, I think actually it was last week, I was complaining about another video that I had been watching, another channel I had been on. It was a car enthusiast, and he believed that sports cars, because they were so low to the ground, that when people looked in the rearview mirror, it actually looked, they were deceived into thinking that the vehicle behind them was tailgating them because it was a sports car. When in fact, most sports cars are probably tailgating you because you're going too slow. And that's what Tracy said. I was explaining this to her, and she said, well, I drive a sports car, and most of the time I am tailgating you because you're going too slow. So I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that sports cars aren't very tall. It's the fact that people driving sports cars are aggressive drivers, and you're simply in their way and need to move over to the other lane. Same thing with motorcycles. We know that people that drive motorcycles, people that drive pickup trucks, tend to have more aggressive characteristics in their driving style. We know this for a fact. It is documented. It is researched. It is a fact within the traffic safety community. So we know that. It's not a fact that sports cars might be tailgating you, or you perceiving, or you're deceived into thinking that they're tailgating you. They are in fact tailgating you. Okay, Elevator Fan, if you follow too close and crash, you will be held responsible. Most cases, Elevator Fan, the law is not clear cut, and it is always up to the judge to decide. In many of these cases that do find their way into the courtrooms, they don't make it to the court because it's too expensive. The process is too lengthy, and oftentimes they are settled out of court. The two parties come to some agreement about what the settlement is going to be. Probably the longest crash that I've worked on that was still awaiting a settlement, was still awaiting trial, was 10 years. Just an incredible amount of time for somebody to be waiting for a settlement. Marion, I've noticed a lot of motorbikes were in and out of traffic, which is so dangerous. Yes, indeed. And Marion, if you get the opportunity to drive in Europe or in California, they do something called lane splitting, where you're at the intersection, you're waiting for traffic, and they will move up between the lanes of traffic. I am actually an advocate of lane splitting because it makes all traffic more aware of motorcycles. I think that road safety is actually higher in Europe, owing to the fact that motorcycles are allowed to lane split. Now, every time you bring this out and present it as an option to be safer, there's a video with some moron driving a huge Harley Davidson, fully dressed with saddlebags on it and those types of things, trying to lane split, and of course hits the two cars on either side. There has to be some judgment on the part of the rider, knowing that if you have a fully dressed Harley or a Goldwing or a Honda Interstate, you are not going to be able to drive up between the two lanes of traffic. We're talking about, enduros, small motorcycles, 450 scooters, Vespas, those types of things. That's what we're talking about in terms of lane splitting. And when I drove in Spain last year with the lane splitting, you're more aware, right? And we're always talking about that in terms of social media. You see all the stuff on Twitter in terms of social media campaigns about awareness with motorcycles. If you want motorcycles to be in the minds of people driving on the roadways, allow lane splitting. That is going to make people very aware of motorcycles on our roadways. Jackson, there was an error. The error, I was into most of the other person's lane because the road was too narrow, but I merged correctly and turns were smooth and following distance was great and didn't speed once. Was this your driving Sunday got an A? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, Jackson, so your driving lessons are going really well. That's really great. Not entirely in the other person's lane, tires were, yeah, but remember, driving lessons is the place to fall down. That's completely okay that, you make mistakes when you're learning how to drive because you get some feedback from your instructors, from your mentors, and other people who are helping you out. Tailgating, counterintuitive. Keep space in front. Time buys you, space buys you time buys you options. Options prevent crashes. If you have that space in front, you can be more predictable in what you're doing on the roadways. Signal early, don't make aggressive movements. If you do come to a stop and you're not sure whether the person behind you that is tailgating you is paying attention, pump the brake pedal a couple of times to flash your brake lights on the back of the car. That will get their attention that you are doing something and changing course, either slowing down with your speed or you are going to change directions. You're going to turn or lane change or merge or something like that. So do all that when you're driving and keep that space in front for somebody that is potentially tailgating you, because you want to be as predictable as possible. Because keep in mind, if somebody's tailgating you, you are now driving for the bonehead behind you and you're driving your vehicle as well. So you have to be more aware, more conscious of what you're doing to keep yourself safe when you're being tailgated by other vehicles. So know that. As I said, if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, and let us know what we can help you out with if you have any questions. My mouse is being all goofy here, so I'm having some technical challenges here. All right, so let's get going over to the presentation here. The presentation is 10 or 12 minutes. We'll get through that, and then we'll come back and we'll answer any questions you have about passing a driver's test and being a safer, smarter driver, or starting your career as a truck or bus driver. We can help you with that as well. Smarter defensive driving, minimum safe distance. How do these strategies and techniques keep you safe when other people are tailgating you? Because as we said in the introduction, the number one crash in North America is rear end crashes. People fail to keep that distance in front. People fail to recognize other vehicles, other traffic slowing down in front. This is what we want to do. We want to keep minimum safe distance so that we keep ourselves safe when we're driving. It refuses to work. Yes, absolutely, Marion. Didn't feed the mouse. Yes, and it's not working properly. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States, mostly east of the Mississippi, but I did make it into all but 4 states in the U.S., Utah, Nevada, New Mexico. One other one, I can't remember what it was. I was in Oregon. It's not coming to me right now. I'm having a brain cramp. Okay, became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1998. Earned my doctorate in legal history in 2006, which is legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. And my expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic, oddly enough. If you want to know more about me, you can check out the autobiography over at the Smart Drive Test website. And while I was going to university doing my doctorate degree, I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines is there as well. So I have experience driving buses as well. My mouse is definitely not paying attention now. All right, the basic conflict. There's a basic conflict in almost everything that we do in life. For example, if you hire somebody to fix your house, there is a basic conflict. The basic conflict is the person doing the work on your house wants as much money as possible for the least amount of work as possible. You want somebody to do the most amount of work for the least amount of money. Okay, that's the basic conflict. In driving, yeah, now I have the wrong slide. Technology is not helping me today. All right. In driving, the basic conflict is collisions versus congestion. Okay, how fast can we drive on the roadway? What is the maximum speed and what is the most amount of traffic that we can move per hour through a section of highway? All right, and then we have to balance that with the number of crashes and collisions on our roadway. And of course, crashes and collisions are acceptable because in our society, in North American society, European society, every other high-income country in the world, we label crashes and collisions as accidents. And we dismiss them, right? We know that in the average driving career that a person in a 30 or 40-year career is going to have a crash every 3 or 4 years, right? We know that. Therefore, people go along for 10, 15 years driving and they haven't had a crash, and that is their high watermark of their ability to drive. They think that they're a good driver because they have not had a crash, which nothing could be farther from the truth. There are so many other factors in driving that may have prevented you from having a crash that you didn't crash. It's the same thing saying, I've been putting my pants on since I was 4 years old, and I never went out of the house without my pants on. Therefore, I'm a snappy dresser. I'm not a snappy dresser. It's inductive reasoning, okay? It's not true from a very small experience that you were in fact a good driver. And, you know, I like to play havoc with a lot of people when I'm driving with them and they're saying about how good they are as a driver and whatnot. And I simply ask them to put the 4-way flashes on in their car. Most of them cannot do it, all right? Social driving, me first. The characteristics of other people after they get their license, the way that they drive after they get their license. This is not working at all. All right. And I restarted my computer and everything, and it's not doing what I wanted to do. Yeah. And we're not on the right slide again. Oh, this is annoying. Sorry about this. My apologies. Social driving. The idea of me first, other traffic is reactionary and retaliatory, okay? Some of the characteristics of driving, social driving, is drivers driving too fast, keeping up with traffic flow, rolling through stop signs, not giving way. These are all the problems that you face after you get your license. Other people tailgating you and telling you that you were driving too slow, that you are in their way. So know that when it comes to social driving, other drivers are going to give you grief about what you're doing and the way that you're driving. This is what you need to deal with when you're driving. You need to try not to drive the way that other people are driving, because other people will tell you, why are you keeping space in front? Okay, other people are going to cut in. Yes, they are going to cut in, but they're only going to be there for a moment, and you can let them go and have their crash somewhere else. All right, speed is made up of time and distance. If you control distance in front of your vehicle, you have more time. Space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes. All right, so speed, you need to recognize the difference in speed between your vehicle and other vehicles on the roadway. Your vehicle doing 30 miles an hour in the city, for example, and a bicycle that's doing 15 to 20 miles an hour. There is a speed differential there. And one of the skills of driving that is difficult is you recognizing the difference between your vehicle and other vehicles on the roadway, and vehicles to the front and vehicles to the rear. That is a skill that is only learned through experience when you're driving, and it takes time to learn that skill. If you're on a multi-lane roadway and you're in the left lane and other vehicles are coming up behind you, recognizing the speed difference between your vehicles and vehicles behind is going to allow you to move over to the right and facilitate traffic flow. If there are vehicles in front of you that are going slower, that will allow you to recognize that that vehicle is going slower in front of you and that you can move over to the left lane and continue to maintain a constant speed, as opposed to coming up, slowing down and braking behind that vehicle in front of you. This thing just randomly changes slides now. Oh my God, sorry. The tools of the smarter defensive driving are understanding the problem of driving, which is social driving, understanding space management, speed management, understanding communication and observation. And the way that we communicate with other traffic on the roadway is the position of our vehicle on the roadway. Understanding lights and signals, signal every time you change directions of the vehicle. Hand gestures, eye contact, and finally use of the horn, but use the horn sparingly when you're driving because it's seen as a sign of aggression by other drivers. And then observation, mapping intersections, tracking road users, because we know that 40% of crashes happen at intersections. And this is so frustrating. I'm not sure why this is not working at all. There we go. Observation, mapping intersections, tracking road users. 40% of crashes happen at intersections, and it is the place where you are most likely to encounter vulnerable road users. Pedestrians, cyclists, kids on e-scooters, which seems to be the new road user group on our roadways. All these vulnerable road users, and if you look in most high-income countries in the world, 25% of vulnerable road users are pedestrian, scooters, skaters, those types of things, and you're going to most likely encounter them at intersections. So it becomes very important to track and map and track road users at intersections. Space in front, minimum safe distance, 3 to 4 second following distance, and stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back so you can see the tires of the vehicles in front of you making clear contact with the pavement. This will allow you to do several things when you're driving. All right, if you're back 1 vehicle length from the vehicle in front of you, it's a strategy and technique that you can use to prevent getting rear-ended, because you can be watching and monitoring your center mirror, watching your wing mirrors, and if the vehicle behind you is approaching too fast, you can move up, pump your brakes, and flash the brake lights behind, which will get their attention, and oftentimes that will prevent you being rear-ended when you're sitting in traffic. If you change your mind or the vehicle in front breaks down, you can move out and around the vehicle in front of you. If the car in front rolls backwards, it's not going to roll into you, and this is more of a case with people driving older manual cars that they may roll back, especially if they're on an incline or whatnot. It's really nice with newer manual cars because they have hill assist and will automatically apply the brakes when you're on a hill. And in an ideal world, all vehicles could move off together if everybody stayed back 1 vehicle length. All right, minimum safe distance. You can always manage the space in front. And some people are going to say, as I said previously, somebody's going to cut in. Yes, but if they cut in, they're not going to be there for very long and they can go and have their crash somewhere else. You should be using the accelerator to control that space in front. You should have enough space that you can just let off the throttle and slow down. Of course, this is in an ideal utopic world, right? It's only going to work 80 or 90% of the time. But the only time you should be using the brake when driving is to coming to a complete stop, controlling speed on a downhill, slowing down to turn or behind turning traffic, and unexpected events are the only times that you should be using the brake pedal when driving. When out on the highway, drive between the clusters of vehicles on the highway, whatever it is, whatever force, whatever physics, natural phenomena or whatnot, people on the highways want to drive in clusters. And I believe that it is simply a lack of training or awareness within social media that we do not focus on space. We're so absorbed and consumed with speed is the problem. Speed is the cause of crashes, and that is not true. The mismanagement of space and speed are the causes of traffic crashes, not speed. All right? Because if that was true, and why do we have fewer crashes on highways when road speeds are twice what they are in the cities? I mean, you just have to think about that for a moment. It's because there is more space on the highways. This is why. It's the mismanagement of speed and space that causes crashes. So always have that minimum safe distance between your vehicle, other traffic, and fixed objects on the roadway. Be proactive and predictable. Observation, scanning, and mapping all the time, especially at intersections. As we said, 40% of crashes happen here. It's the place where you're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users. Communicating effectively with other traffic. Shoulder checking. Shoulder checking is not communication, but it is a part of observation, which I was talking about previously. Shoulder check and signal every time you change directions of the vehicle. Communication, lights and signals, position of the vehicle, eye contact, hand gestures, and using the horn sparingly. You want to read traffic patterns and you want to be able to understand the actions of individual road users. You can do that through reading the road signs, figuring out what's going on with the road ahead, and watching the traffic in front of you so that you can respond to traffic. Because many instances, if you think that you're going to react every time and you're going to react in time, that simply doesn't happen. And traffic statistics, crashes for traffic statistics tell us that drivers do not react in time when they're driving on the roadways. All right, read and respond, looking ahead at controlled intersections, locating turning lanes, understanding rubberneckers. If there is a police officer with someone pulled over on the side of the road, inevitably there are going to be rubberneckers, and even if the police officer is on the other side of the road, your lane of traffic is going to slow down and potentially even stop because people are gawking at what the police officer, what the emergency vehicles are doing on the other side of the road. Know that different seasons bring out different vehicles. This is the time of year right now where we have a lot of pickup trucks with camper trailers, motorcycles, and those types of things. So seasons play a key role in predictable traffic patterns because pickup trucks pulling trailers in the mountains and hills, they're going to slow down. They're going to go slow. They're going to get lost in towns. They're looking for a service center. They're looking for information centers. They're looking for the campground, those types of things. So keep as much space as possible between your vehicle and those on the roadway to keep yourself safe. All right, MIT, mapping intersections, tracking road users. We went over this. 40% of crashes happen in intersections. It's the place where you're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users, and 25% of traffic fatalities are vulnerable road users. So minimum 3 feet, 1 meter between your vehicle and road users on the roadway. Map those road users as you're approaching the intersection and track their movement, especially if it is going to cross your path of travel. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. None of my hotkeys are working. Epic, how are you, my friend? Another habit of driving in the highway is straddling between the two lanes that can lead to tailgating, conviction, or worse, an accident. When I was driving on the interstate, I go the limit or flow. Yes, and it's a good idea to go the flow of traffic and not tailgate other people. Keep that 3 to 4 second following distance. Use the throttle to control that space in front of your vehicle if the traffic in front of you slows down. The other piece about driving on the highway is Use cruise control. Set your cruise control so that you can maintain one speed when you're driving on the highways. If you have adaptive cruise control, as most newer vehicles will, built after 2015, you're going to have adaptive cruise control. Adaptive cruise control prioritizes space over speed, and you can set it at 2 seconds, 4 seconds, and 6 seconds. And I counsel you to set it at 4 seconds. 4 seconds is an ideal following distance, both in town and out on the highways. And no, you don't want to be using your cruise control in the city. You want to be using it on the highways and freeways and those types of things. So know that. Thank you, Marion. Yes, I got through the slide presentation, even though the technology was not doing what it needed to do for me. It worked so well this morning when I did the live stream, but now it's not working at all when I have many more people here. Not sure what that is, but you know what they say, the show must go on, right? So you got to work your way through it, even despite technology. So yes, so adaptive cruise control, use that on the highway, the motorway, the freeway, wherever you're driving. And in addition to that, many newer vehicles in the last 4 years, 5 years will also have lane assist. Actually, again, 2015 and forward, they'll have adaptive cruise control and they'll have lane assist. Use lane assist as well. As I said, it prioritizes space. So if you come up on another vehicle that's going slower than you, it will maintain that space distance and slow down your speed all of a sudden. So you got to kind of judge that, and a little bit of experience will help you out in being able to use adaptive cruise control. I have the old 1998 Honda CR-V. It has the old cruise control on it where you set it at one speed. It stays at that one speed and will not slow down. When I went to Australia and I went to Spain, we rented a car. Both the vehicles had adaptive cruise control in them. And it's a really easy transition from the old cruise control to adaptive cruise control out on the highways, and I do recommend that you use it. First and foremost, it reduces distracted driving because now you're not having to monitor your speed all the time. You can keep one nice constant speed. And I challenge anybody who says to me, oh, I can keep a constant speed on the fuel pedal. No, you can't. You really can't keep a constant speed on the fuel pedal. Use your cruise control, and the other thing about it is you can set it at a speed where you know that you're not going to get a speeding ticket when you're driving. So that's the other piece about using cruise control. Jackson, in your opinion, would I pass or have steps to success? Jackson, pass your driving test? Is that what you're asking me, my friend? Corey, yes, there you go. Excellent. Corey's put up the video on cruise control. Thank you for that, Corey. Mary, mine does that as well. I don't have adaptive cruise control. It sounds so much better. Yes, interesting. Your 2017 HR-V does not have adaptive cruise control, Mary, and I'm actually surprised by that. All right. And I was thinking of a story when Marion was congratulating me on getting through the slideshow presentation, even though my technology wasn't working. When I was teaching at the university, we had cows, not like real cows, not like those cows, computers on wheels. And you know, this was 20 years ago. This was not 2006, but 2008, 2009, right? Computers are not what they are now. So we had these computers on wheels, and you'd go in and you'd book them out, and then you had to have on a USB stick, and you stick it into the computer, and you had to fire the computer up, get it booted up, get your presentation up, and get it all working and looking nice. So it was a computer with a slide projector, and you had to get the slideshow projector and the thing down. And you're in there, and of course you've got 5 minutes while all the students are shuffling in, and you're trying to get everything set up. It was anxiety causing, to say the least. You were anxious trying to get everything and making sure it worked and your presentation worked and all those types of things. So it was pretty crazy. It wasn't like the old days, right, of universities where you just go in and the professor would stand at the front of the lecture hall for an hour reading off some notes. No, you had to have a PowerPoint presentation, and it had to be funky and entertaining and whatnot. So there you go. Corey, my 2019 Micra also doesn't have adaptive cruise control. Kind of a bummer in hindsight. Oh, well. Interesting. Okay, so some of these vehicles pre-2020 do not have adaptive cruise control. I find that interesting that some of these base models don't have adaptive cruise control. Very interesting. I forgot to turn off one of the other web pages that I pulled up, and I'm thinking now that web page has pulled resources from all of my technology, and that's what's causing it not to work. Evan, you should have a 3-second following distance when driving, even in ideal conditions, in case 2 isn't enough. Yes, and we do advocate 3 seconds of following distance, as Evan said. Excellent, thank you for that. And as Evan just mentioned, this following distance is under ideal conditions, okay? If road conditions deteriorate, if you are in congestion, rain, fog, snow, you want to increase your following distance even more to keep yourself safe when you're driving, because you need, now it's not just you need to respond to what's going on in changing traffic conditions, but you also need to get traction so that you can get your vehicle slowed down, you can get your vehicle stopped so that you do not rear end the vehicle in front of you. That's what you want to do. Jackson, my errors were not stopping after I stopped behind the stop line once and then stopped for other traffic, which there was none, but scanned for other vehicles. Jackson, you don't have to come to a complete stop after you've stopped the first time, okay? So you come up to a two-way stop, and Corey will put up the video for you on how to deal with two-way stop signs, because the difference between two-way stop signs and four-way stop signs for new drivers can be challenging, and you have to come up and stop at the correct stopping position behind the stop line, behind the crosswalk or sidewalk, and then if those two conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the road is where you want to stop, just before entering the box of the intersection. After you stop there, then you treat it as a yield. You don't have to stop again at the edge of the intersection. You can roll up nice and slow, check, left, center, right, left again, and check the intersection. So long as it's clear, you can proceed. You do not have to come to a stop again at the intersection. All right, so have a look at that video, and Corey will put that up for you and help you out. Marion, do you keep the cruise control off when traveling in snow? Yes, Marion, if it is deep snow, you don't any kind of compromised traction, then yes, you do not want to be using cruise control. Some people are even advocates of not using it in rain. I tend not to agree with that. If you have good quality tires on your vehicle and it's raining out, I mean, you can use cruise control on your vehicle. You're going to be just fine. The other piece about it, and this is the most important piece about using cruise control, is figure out where the cancel button is, okay? You want to use the cancel button on the steering wheel and just kind of hover your thumb over the cancel button when you're using cruise control rather than using the brake to kick it off. You can use the brake pedal and that will kick the cruise control off. It will disengage it. The better response to turning off your cruise control is using the cancel button on the steering wheel, because then the vehicle just coasts and the wheels are still turning. I know that we have ABS brakes on our vehicles. You know, every vehicle built in the last 20 years, they are all fitted with ABS brakes. So it's going to be fine if you touch the brake, but it's a better response to just cancel the cruise control and the vehicle just free rolls, okay? In the highly unlikely event that something happens. And it's the same thing, the old buggy, it's a manual transmission, so to kick the cruise control off in the buggy, I just touch the clutch. As soon as I touch the clutch, it disengages the cruise control on it. It's the same thing as having cancel on the steering wheel. And the newer vehicles that I've driven, the ones in Spain and the ones in Australia, when I canceled the cruise control, I would get used to hitting the cancel. And every other vehicle, I have a Chevy Silverado out here that I'm trying to sell. If anybody wants a 2,500, 3/4 ton, 2005 Chevy Silverado, I have one for sale. Selling a vehicle. Now there's another interesting endeavor in life in this light of the social media world in which we now live. Man, do you get spammed a lot by when you list stuff on Facebook and Kijiji and other platforms that say they're selling stuff. Yeah, the spammers are alive and well on those platforms, let me tell you. Marion, yes, I have done cruise control and touching the brake, and it's both okay. I've used cruise control in rain as well. And yes, as I would say, Marion, just teach yourself to use the cancel button on the steering wheel. That's better than using the brake, okay? It's just safer. Jackson, would I pass or have steps to success, Mr. Rick? Jackson, unless I was in the vehicle with you, my friend, I couldn't tell you, okay? I could not tell you whether you're going to pass or fail your driver's test. 5 minutes in the vehicle, I could tell you that, but I cannot tell you from just what you're telling me in terms of driving. Other persons, okay, excellent. But it sounds like, Jackson, you're doing all the right things. You're getting driving in and those types of things. It sounds like whenever your driving instructor tells you that you're ready to go for your test, I suspect that you're going to be competent and ready to go for your test and pass your license test for sure. Okay, but you know, I can't give you feedback on that for sure. Epic, my family hired trim Sienna and a newer 22 Mazda CX mid-trim. It has adaptive cruise control. When my father used the minivan cruise control at 75 miles an hour, the car in front reduced speed. Okay, so the car in front reduced speed. Did your vehicle as well reduce speed? So yeah, that's what adaptive cruise control does. It prioritizes space over speed, which is a great safety feature as far as I'm concerned. Much, much better, much safer for people driving on highways and motorways and those types of things. So we're talking about tailgaters today. We're talking about skills and abilities that you can put in place, and it's actually counterintuitive to what you're doing when you're driving and somebody's tailgating you and you're trying to protect yourself and put strategies in place to prevent you having a crash. The way that you do that is by having more space in front. So we're talking about following distance of 3 to 4 seconds, following distance under ideal conditions. When somebody is tailgating you, that is not an ideal condition when you're driving, all right? So know that. And therefore, you have to increase that following distance in front so that you can now drive your vehicle and drive for the goofy person behind you that's tailgating you. That's how you protect yourself when you're driving. Okay, so know that when you're driving, that you're no longer under ideal conditions when somebody's tailgating you, because you are in danger of that person behind you rear-ending you, okay? And you don't want to be rear-ended because it's a type of crash that you don't want to be involved in, because this is the reason that we have head restraints in the car. Is to what happens is you get whiplash. Your head snaps back into the head restraint. Hopefully your head restraint is going to be adjusted correctly. As well, stopping in traffic one vehicle length back from the car in front of you, the reason that you want to do that is because when you're sitting there at the intersection, you're monitoring your center mirror, you're monitoring your side mirrors, your wing mirrors, so that you're looking behind you and watching that vehicle come up behind you. And when you do that, if they're coming up too fast and they're not slowing down, you can pump the brake pedal and flash the brake lights and say to the person, hey, you're coming too slow. And oftentimes you can move up that little bit of space, and that's going to prevent you from being rear-ended. And my friend Mallory is here. Hello, Mallory. It's rainy and windy in the Maritimes there, yes, and it is raining here as well. So hello, hello. Okay, Jackson, I can't give you an opinion, my friend. Okay, I can't give you an opinion. Unless I get in the vehicle with you, I can't tell you whether you're going to pass your driver's test or not. Okay, you're going to need to get that from the instructor. All right. Okay, so we're talking about that, and as well, as I mentioned, all of these lessons that we're talking about in terms of defensive driving, tailgating, rear end crashes, this ties into distractions. This ties into road rage, which we talked about last week, because if you're tailgating other people, it ties into distractions, because now the person in front is distracted. Not only are they distracted, now they're probably going to get angry and they're going to retaliate, because it's this kind of cat and mouse thing. The person behind is tailgating to tell you you're going too slow, and then the person in front slows down to tell the person behind them that they're tailgating. So all of this ties in together, and it is sequential, right? One person tailgates, the other person slows down, the person behind tailgates to communicate with the other way. So tailgaters are trying to communicate with you to tell you that you are going too slow when you're driving. So if you can keep more space between yourself and other people, it can protect you against distractions. If you get distracted by all kinds of things that are happening on the roadway, and I put up the short there a week or so ago, I got distracted by a woman skateboarding along the sidewalk. I was looking at her, and all of a sudden the traffic in front of me came to a stop. Fortunately, I had that space in front of me, and I was able to get the vehicle stopped in time so I didn't rear end that vehicle. All right, Javin, you just passed your CDL test. That is awesome, my friend. What state did you pass your CDL in, and do you have a job lined up, my friend? That is really great news. Congratulations. Awesome, awesome news that you passed your CDL. Thank you for stopping back. Thank you for letting us know that you were successful in getting your CDL license. Huge achievement, my friend. Huge achievement. Really, really awesome. All right, New York. Excellent. Upstate New York or the city, my friend. So, great news there. All right, so we're talking about distractions, talking about road rage, space management, keeping that space in front under ideal conditions and stopping back one vehicle length. And when you're in congestion, you're moving along slowly, you still want to maintain that one vehicle length between you and the vehicles in front of you. Because if we get into congestion where traffic is, nose to tail rather, and it's going slow, it's crawling along, right? You're going to get distracted because you're talking to the person in the car, you're listening to the radio, you're changing the stations on the radio, you're trying to find something interesting to do. Other people are doing goofy things and you're like, oh my God, am I ever going to get out of this congestion? You will get distracted. So keep that distance, minimum one vehicle length between you and the traffic in front of you, especially when you're going slow, so that you don't accidentally bump into the car in front of you. That's definitely not what you want to do. Javin, in the city, that is even more impressive, my friend, that you passed your CDL license in New York City. That is no small feat, my friend. Congratulations. Mallory, was thinking of you yesterday while I was on the highway with my family traveling somewhere to pick up something. Excellent. Thank you, Mallory, for thinking of me while you were driving in the car with your family. Checo, I have been good, my friend. How are you? And Gabrielle, moving to Wisconsin from the UK, where I already have a British license. Not sure which maneuvers are on the test. Looking forward to driving on the right. Awesome. Yes, Gabrielle, that's going to be interesting. Wisconsin. Did you get transferred there for a job, Gabrielle, there in Wisconsin? You got a fascination with cows and cheese. Ba-dum-bum. There's my Wisconsin joke. I once drove truck. Well, I drove truck, as you know. I drove truck in the 1990s. I once took a truckload of blankets for cows, to Wisconsin. And because if they can keep them comfortable, give them massages, back rubs, play them quiet music, all those types of things, cows will actually produce more milk. And so this is why I took a load of cow blankets to Wisconsin, the cheese state. Yes, so Gabrielle, you're moving to Wisconsin. It's interesting when you listen to people and you talk to people around the world and you go to different places and people are moving to places and that sorts of things and whatnot. It's always interesting to know where they move and, why they move there. Blankets for cows. Yes, Marion, blankets for cows. For work, don't even like cheese, but going to the state famous for it. Gabrielle, you can hang out with my son. He doesn't like cheese either. Whereas my daughter and I, cheese, we get to just have cheese on everything. I mean, breakfast cereal, cheese on that. Yeah, we'll just grate some cheese on that. Cheese is the best. But you don't like cheese. And I've met a few people in the world who don't like cheese. It's kind of like chocolate. There are a few people in the world who don't like chocolate either, which, confounds some of us for sure. Epic, I wonder why some jurisdictions, if you hold a license from another country, you just simply don't take the test. Another thing to consider to try, leave spaces between yourself and large vehicles. Absolutely, you definitely want to stay back. Okay, Corey's put up frequently asked questions for the state of Wisconsin there. And Gabrielle, you're going to find it not too difficult. I had to get my driver's license and my commercial license, my CDL license, when I moved to Australia, driving on the left side, so moving to the other side of the road. It's I don't know whether you've had the opportunity to be in countries that drive on the right side of the road, but not, on the right side as opposed to the left, not, we're on the right side of the road and you're not because you're in the UK. That's not what we're talking about, right? Because when I drove coaches in Australia, of course, as soon as I got on the microphone, they knew from my accent that I wasn't Australian, right? And they'd always say, "Oh, be sure that you drive on the right side of the road." They'd be yelling from the back of the bus. And then, of course, I'd get on the microphone and I go, "You don't want me to drive on the right side of the road. You want me to drive on the correct side of the road." Of course, being the smart ass that I am, right? Always have a comeback. And Epic, some jurisdictions have an exchange program where you can just change your license from one state to another state, or you can change your license from Canada into the United States. I don't know why that is. It's just the way that it goes with different licensing centers and jurisdictions and those types of things. When I moved to Australia, I did have to take it all again. I had to take my car license. I had to take my tractor trailer license. Same thing for Gabrielle when she goes to Wisconsin. She's probably going to have to do all the license tests again to be able to get her license there in the state of Wisconsin. When I moved from Ontario, the province of Ontario, to the province of British Columbia, it was simply an exchange. I just moved my license over. Now, my driving instructor's license, on the other hand, was completely different. I had to take an entire battery of tests. I had to demonstrate to the ICBC people that I could teach classes. I could teach air brake classes. I could demonstrate the pre-trip inspection. I could do driving lessons and all those types of things. They just gave me an entire battery of tests. And then it was interesting. A couple of people, while I had been moving through the process of applying to challenge the instructor's license here in the province of British Columbia, a couple of people were like, oh, just go to the Justice Institute and just redo the course and this and that. And I was like, I'm not spending $5,000 to go down there and redo the course for something that I already know how to do. I just need to take the test so that I can practice here in the province and do the instructor's license. And then some years later, 3-4 years later, I actually ended up working at ICBC in the licensing department. And I came into Jill's office, who had been working at ICBC forever, who I should contact soon and just say hi. And she said, oh, I'm like, oh, I'm Rick August. Hello, how are you? And she's like, oh, yeah, I know who you are. And I'm like, what do you mean you know who I am? And she's like, oh, you were the first person in British Columbia to ever challenge the driving instructor's license. So I was the first person that ever did it. And I don't think anybody has done it since. So I, was the first. I was kind of like Neil Armstrong, except, I didn't walk on the moon. I was, wasn't Buzz Aldrin, the second guy. Marion, when we came to Canada, my husband had to do another road test to get his Canadian license. He had already been driving for 30 or 40 years. And yes, that must have been interesting for him after 30 or 40 years of driving that he had to do another driver's test. Mallory, I like your Wisconsin joke. It was pretty funny. Thank you for that. Mallory, you want to be looking where your vehicle is going when driving? Yes, absolutely. Jackson, what is the most favorite part of the road to drive in? Rick, what is the most favorite part? Any place out on the country road is always fun to drive in. Sometimes it's kind of fun to bomb through town with, missing obstacles, doing crazy things, getting the car going, accelerating, those types of things. Oh, and owning a Honda. So I've had a lot of work done to the Honda in the last 6 months. A lot of work. I took it to another shop back in December, and there was just a gong show, which cost me just thousands of dollars. So now I've had it into another shop because it's been leaking oil, and I've had all the seals replaced on the one end of it, and they've been really, really helpful. We're trying to figure out why we have so much pressure coming out of the crankcase. And there's called a positive crank valve that goes on the top of the engine. Okay, I'm not going to get too intricate on you and those types of things. Anyway, it takes the burnt exhaust gases that aren't completely burned and takes those gases and puts them back into the intake, and they're reburned so that the fuel oxygen mixture is burned completely and you get less pollution, right? So I put a new PCV valve on the top of the motor, and they're like $8 aftermarket. $8. Okay? And so the technician and I, Doug, was saying today, we were looking at we pulled the PCV valve, and he goes, oh, well, this thing isn't very much, and it's, maybe it's bigger. And I thought, okay, if I actually go to Honda, maybe the hole is bigger so that it can move more air through this valve, right? And this isn't the first time I've had this happen when I went to Honda. So the PCV valve is $8 aftermarket at an auto parts store. It was $65 at Honda. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. We were changing the back shocks in the CRV, the 1998 Honda CRV that I own, the buggy. The bolt, the bottom bolt, we had to cut it out because it was seized. It had been in there since the beginning of time, in 1998 when the Honda was built. And went to Honda, and they wanted $85 for the bolt. $85. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I went to the auto parts store. They gave me a better bolt that was stronger, and it was $4 for 2 bolts. But at Honda, the same bolt, one bolt was $85. And you're just think, how do, and Doug was saying to me, my automotive technician, he was saying that Chrysler, Dodge are exactly the same, that they just charge these exorbitant prices, like 8-10 times the amount for the same part. And you're just like, how do you stay in business? How do these places stay in business? This is just insane. For a $2 bolt is $85 at the dealership. And the guy's like, oh, I gotta order that PCV valve for you. I'm like, no, you really won't, because I'm not paying $65 for an $8 part. just Anyway, the other piece about all of this is the last thing, I'll end on this, and then I'll answer some more questions before we finish up here. The front end was banging on the buggy. It's old, right? It's got 400,000 K on it. It's 260,000 miles on it. It's banging. And I took it in. I said, he had it on the hoist. I said, Doug, the front end's banging when I go down the road. And so they're messing around and something's loose. It's just loose, right? All I had to do was put a wrench on it and tighten it. I thought I was like, I'm looking at $600 or $800 for new front strut assemblies on the old buggy. And it was just something loose. And I'm like, now I go down the road and the thing just goes really nice and quiet over the bumps, and it's really nice to drive and lots of fun. So, if you want a safer vehicle, and this has been proven in terms of our thinking, our attitude about life, and the way that we look at things in terms of a positive light, right? It's this: if you want to feel better about yourself, go and have a shower, shave, wash your hair. Not for women. I mean, there are some women that might have to shave, but for the most part, not. And put on some nice clothes, and you feel better about yourself. It's the same thing as if you work at home, right? Go and have a shower. Go and put on some nice clothes. Look like you're going to work. This is what I try and do every morning when I get up, because I work at home, right? I'm going to work. I'm getting ready. I shave. I have a shower. I put on nice clothes, right? I'm working. It's the same thing with your car. If you want your car to be better, clean it. Get it fixed. Get the bang in it to get it fixed, right? So, that way when you drive it, it's not, like you're driving an old rattle trap, right? Get it fixed. You'll have a better outlook on life. You'll like your car more. Every 2 or 3 years, spend $400, take it and get it detailed. Get the inside of it cleaned. You will be amazed at how much more fun it is to drive your car when it's super clean on the inside, right? I had mine done 3 years ago. I'm going to get it done again this summer. We had wax on the console in the middle where the drink holder is in the Honda CR-V. We had wax on that. They get the wax out of it. It was crazy. I don't know how they got the wax out of it, because I had no idea how to get the wax out of it. But they, did all kinds of great things. Thank you, Marion. Gabrielle, quick question. I have read on the Wisconsin DMV that the reverse bay parking is not tested. Is this true? Will the DMV allow me to use 45-degree angle method or the perpendicular? Gabrielle, I'm sure that you can use the 45. There's usually not a rule against you not using that, but yes, definitely you can use the 45. As well, Gabrielle, they probably will have an office for the DMV. Go to the office. Back into the parking space at the DMV in Wisconsin there, and that's going to help you when you leave, right? Because you're going to be driving out, not backing out into the parking lot, because you're already going to be super nervous, right? Even if you do have driving experience on the other side of the road in the UK, cup of tea and all that good stuff. Sorry. Cheese, anybody? So, back into the parking space. So even though it's not tested, still do it, still back into the space, show up 20 to 30 minutes before your test, and you're going to be great. Okay? Awesome. Yes, and what Marion said, the other thing about having your car cleaned and the carpet shampooed and those types of things, it's going to smell great. It's going to smell awesome. And the other piece that you do after, even if you don't take it to a detailer and spend the money and get your vehicle clean, the other thing that I highly recommend, okay, if you don't get it detailed, clean it yourself. Yes, get a vacuum in there, clean it out yourself. Spray the whole interior with vinegar. Like, take a solution, get a spray bottle. You can get them at the dollar store, dirt cheap. Half vinegar, half water. Spray the liner in your car, all the seats, everything with vinegar and water. And then change the cabin filter. You can take it to a technician. They'll change the cabin filter for you. I do my own. A cabin filter is about $40. The cabin filter is all the air that is sucked into the vehicle and then blown through the heater, and the air conditioning system goes through that filter. And I could show you a picture that is super grossiosity in the buggy of the filter that I changed, the cabin filter. So I change mine every year now because I get a lot of crap and dirt and guck in my filter. So I change mine every year. After you change the cabin filter, after you've cleaned the inside of your vehicle, after you sprayed it with vinegar, go to the auto parts store and get an aerosol bomb. It's not a bomb that goes boom and blows up the inside of your car. No, it's an aerosol bomb because the can has a dead man switch on it. So once you push the switch down, it will completely empty the can into your car. Okay, so the way that you use the aerosol bomb, you start the car up, turn the air conditioning on, put it on recirculation, set the aerosol can in the center console between the two front seats, push the button, and then close the door, let the vehicle run for 15-20 minutes. That will circulate this aerosol all through the ventilation system and into your air conditioning and throughout the car, and your car will be super clean, super smelly nice, like bouquet of roses and those types of things. And you can get all kinds of great different smells in the aerosol bombs, like flower of summer, genie after bath or something, and all those great smells, right? So you can get all of that. So an aerosol bomb from an auto parts store, and put that in your car as well to keep it nice and super clean. It's really awesome. Okay. Yes, Marion, it's a little bit like a flea bomb, except it doesn't get rid of fleas. It makes the inside of your car all really nice and does the ventilation system and all those great things as well. So get one of those. They're about $18 now for an aerosol bomb, but they're really, really great. Gabrielle, not as serious, but last question. Should I hide on the 4th of July, or will people celebrate in good fun with an ex-overlord around? An ex-overlord. That's a good one, Gabrielle. I don't, most Americans in Wisconsin can't find Canada. I'm sure that they really won't remember, 1789. 1789? I think it was 1789. 1776. Yes, 1776. Because the way I always remember that is the 76ers, right? So, 1776. Most Americans won't remember. I'm sure you'll be just fine, Gabrielle. I'm sure you'll be just fine. Epic. My parents asked about Hickory Driving School road test. Service instructor told my parents it's $290. Testing site is in Trenton instead of Randolph, which is closer to me in Eaton, Pennsylvania. And yes, $290 sounds about the going rate there. Epic. I think you're going to do just fine, my friend. All right. That sounds really great. Everything is awesome. If you have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section before you toddle off. Please hit that thumbs up button. If you got a driver's test coming up in the next week or so, good luck on that. Ask us questions, drop notes. More than happy to help you out to pass your driver's test first time. And if you passed your driver's test in the last week or so, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye now. See, and then it asks you